Finalmouse dropped some heat on Saturday night, finally announcing CENTERPIECE, which is their new mechanical keyboard with a full LCD plate with interactive skins. And I wanted to make a full video, but I didn't have time to write a full script. I wanted to get this out there. So let's get right into it. So not having one in hand, I can only really talk about my reaction to the announcement of the keyboard. Thankfully, Finalmouse has blessed us with a decent amount of video coverage on Twitter for people like me who weren't at Finalcon. The design is very in line with the earlier versions of the Starlight mouse, which I originally was never really that big of a fan of, but I honestly say it's grown on me. I've started to appreciate it more and more. And especially with versions of mice like the Pegasus or the Poseidon, I think the theme fits really, really well. The top chassis is all aluminum with CNC engraving. A couple of the shots look to have a really rough texture, but I don't think that's the case. I think it was just the lighting. In a few of the other shots, you can see that it looks to be quite a bit smoother. The star of the show here is the full LCD panel taking up the entire plate, which allows you to display custom interactive skins developed within Unreal Engine 5. This is insane. They're reactive, and the keyboard itself has a CPU and a GPU built into it, which means that it's not going to hog up any system resources. So everything that's going to happen, whether through rendering and all that stuff, is going to be contained within the keyboard. It's just really insane. As I mentioned, they're fully interactive. And it looks like they are building games into it, that it isn't just you tap on a switch and it reacts. That within the promo, they show them playing an actual game on the keyboard. I don't know if this is going to tie into some of the other stuff that I'll talk about in a couple of minutes, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. This is built using brand new technology that Finalmouse has developed. They are calling it the Laminated Display Circuit Glass Stack, or LDGS for short. Looks pretty crazy. Again, not having one in hand, I can't really comment, but it looks like, some kind of a glass plate with an LCD screen under it, and that serves as sort of the plate of the keyboard, and then you'll have your traditional PCB underneath. Finalmouse says this has been in the works for years, and it does seem like there is a decent amount of technology built into this, so I think it really paid off. They say that the PCB and plate assembly is completely isolated, giving what appears to be a very bouncy feel. I think I saw some shots where it looked to be very bouncy, and some really decent acoustics. They did show a couple of sound tests, and they're calling it a soft marble raindrop sound, which is pretty in tune with gasket-mounted keyboards, but we don't see this kind of attention to detail paid to gaming-specific keyboards. So I'm talking about keyboards that we see from Razer or Logitech. Of course, you're going to see it in higher end keyboards, but we've never really seen a melding of those two, some kind of compromise on aesthetics or higher end features, or if they have those, sometimes they sacrifice gaming related features such as a higher response time, things like that. But we've never really seen the two melded together. And so despite being aesthetically pleasing, Finalmouse does say this is obviously a gaming-focused keyboard. It's built with linear mechanical switches. They say they are co-developed by Gateron, that they were inspired by their black ink switches, which are incredibly popular. I've got 2 or 3 keyboards built with them. They're incredibly smooth. However, Finalmouse does say that these have been specifically tuned with a higher actuation and a different travel distance. So again, I think they're going to be tuned more related to gaming, probably a much shorter actuation. The keycaps seem to have a very flat profile. They don't seem to be traditional keycaps like Cherry or OEM. However, they do obviously appear to be using standard switches, so you could technically use any keycaps that you wanted to, although I don't know why you would want to, given that any normal keycap would likely obstruct the view of the LCD display. I do think there are a couple of sets from KBD fans. They have some transparent keycaps. I think one set is called Aurora, and there's another one called 2048 or something like that I think might look really sick on this board, but only time will tell. I don't have either of those sets, but I might have to try to pick one of those up. They are stating that this will have an analog option that allows for an 8K polling rate, also allowing for custom actuation and release point. I feel like this is going to be similar to what we see with the Wooting 60HE, but I have no doubt that Finalmouse is going to add quite a bit of extra flair to it. As I mentioned before, the keyboard has its own CPU and GPU in order to render the custom Unreal animations. This means it's not going to hog any of your system resources, which is pretty crazy. Some of these skins are just look insane. I can't imagine they're going to be too intensive, but still, just to be able to build this all within that small form factor of a 65% keyboard is pretty crazy. You won't be limited to the Finalmouse skins or like the normal baked-in ones. They're going to have a fully built marketplace within Steam. They're calling it the Free Thinker portal. Artists are going to be able to submit skins either for free or you can monetize them. The keyboard will allow you to load up to 3 skins into the board itself, and the rest will be stored within your account. But it sounds like you are going to have to connect it to some kind of a software or whatever to download those skins onto the board itself. There are dedicated buttons on the keyboard. It looks like on the side panel, there's going to be a couple of different dedicated buttons for, it looks like, skin switching as well as altering the brightness of the panel itself. They also stated that you're going to be able to share these skins with people, like your friends, if you wanted to trade skins or something. I don't think I saw anything mentioned regarding whether or not you can resell skins. Like if you're to buy a limited one or whatever and resell it, I didn't see anything mentioned about that. So I don't know if this is just something you can trade people for free or if there's going to be a monetary component to that as well. And I was taking a look at that Free Thinker portal. There was a brief clip where they show the actual storefront itself. And I was looking at a couple of these options. There's an option for challenges. I'm not sure what that means. I wonder if they're going to be offering up limited skins or something you can get by completing certain challenges or being a part of like some specific online events that they might hold. I'm really curious to see what this entails because I don't think it's going to be just, you can buy skins. I think they're developing something way bigger that's going to be way more involved here. Now, and as I mentioned, if you don't want to use the display, which I've got to imagine at least sometimes you're not going to want to. I know as beautiful as I think this thing is, I don't think I'm going to want to have the display on all of the time. There will be brightness options. You can turn it on and off, so that's pretty cool. Now, now the price. I couldn't believe this. I know it sounds kind of crazy or goofy or whatever, but the listed price is $349. This is not what I expected. I quite frankly expected this board to be about $500, but $349 is really competitive for what they're offering here. What seems to be like truly a high-end custom keyboard, but really focused on the gaming features. We've seen this kind of done in the past, but they're never really perfect, right? They've always kind of compromised on this feature or that feature. And this, if this really is offering what they say it's offering, and if it sounds and feels as good as what it appears to, again, the sound tests lead me to believe it's going to sound really great. I think that price is incredibly reasonable. My concern, obviously, is always with stock. We'll see how well this thing is stocked. I'm assuming it's going to be in line with their mice releases where, it's going to be a one-and-done deal. I'm going to try as hard as I can to get my hands on one. I am super impressed with this. I'm very scared to see what kind of reseller prices are going to be. I really hope I don't have to go that route. I try not to do that. I try not to support that kind of stuff. I think it's wrong. But with something like this, I might have to. I'm going to try really hard. I'm really going to pay close attention to the release schedule. With the Starlight Pro. I did get in, but I ended up having some card issues that apparently it didn't go through. However, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I will make sure that I get my hands on this board. I'm super hyped on this one. I can't wait. I just hope I can get my hands on one. I think the $349 is pretty reasonable for what they're offering here. I refuse to pay reseller prices. I don't like condoning that kind of thing. I do think Finalmouse is doing what they can to try and curb that sort of stuff, but we'll see what happens with this release. But I'm curious to know what you think. Do you not care? Do you want it? Are you going to try and pick one up? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. And as always, you can follow me on my socials below, and stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next video.